everybody. Welcome back to Q-Tips. We are the Video Store Junkies, and we are here to bring you a few selections to watch over the weekend on streaming. And we're just going to jump right into it, like we always do. And I'll kick this over to Zach.
Oh, wow, Renee. Somehow I knew you were going to pass it over to me first. Somehow something told me. I had a tingle. It's almost as if I have a psychic sense. Maybe I should go work for the Psychic Network. No, actually, I probably shouldn't. I don't think they exist anymore. And if you watch the movie I'm about to recommend, you'll know that they were also sued into oblivion. The first recommendation for this week is a documentary, actually. The name of the movie is Call Me Miss Cleo. And if you're of a certain age, you'll know exactly what that is referring to. The basis of the documentary is about, yes, Miss Cleo herself. If you grew up in the 90s and you stayed up late, you remember these Psychic Network infomercials with Miss Cleo. I was thinking of going in doing the accent, but then I realized that'd be probably considered very inappropriate by some people now. So I'm not going to do the accent.
It would probably be just as authentic as hers was.
Well, that is one of the things that this documentary covers. So, yeah, it talks about Miss Cleo and kind of her background. They have interviews with people who knew her, people who worked with her. And I got to say, it's not the most satisfying documentary I've ever seen. It's not the most thorough documentary I've ever seen. But it's one of those things where, like, the moment I saw that it existed, I had to watch it because it's just kind of that one of those fascinating 90s relics. But it does kind of pick up. I actually kind of stopped watching after 15 minutes because I was like, there's not a whole lot to this. But I finished it the next day, and I'm actually glad I did because it did kind of pick up near the end because it gets into talking to some of the people who worked as operators for the Psychic Network. Spoiler alert, none of them were actually psychics. It also goes into Miss Cleo and like her being kind of the face of this network, but according to her, at least, she did not see a lot of money from that. And then some of the legal troubles that the actual owners faced. Apparently, one of the most interesting things I learned, I guess when they were like during these lawsuits, I guess they had to like open their books or whatever. And apparently, over the course of the the kind of the heyday of this one particular group that kind of had Miss Cleo as their mascot, so to speak. Apparently, they took in almost $1 billion.
Holy crap.
Which is just, I mean, imagine even at $5 a minute, just someone do the math and imagine how many minutes that is people trying to get psychic advice. I don't know. It's mind-boggling. But anyways, yeah. So the name of the documentary is Call Me Miss Cleo. It's definitely, like I said, an interesting look at a little 90s relic or a little 90s nostalgia. And you can watch it today on HBO Max. And speaking of relics from the 90s, Bill, what's your first recommendation this week?
I was so happy when I heard they went out of business because it's like the jokes write themselves, right? Like they should have seen that coming. And
oh, they have a whole they have a whole segment that's just a bunch of very clever newscasters doing various plays on that when they were sued. So yeah,
I can see where they were successful because as soon as somebody calls up, you're like, I sense that you are a gullible dupe who spends money as fast as they get it, and all your friends think you're an idiot. Oh my God, it's like you know me. Like, you're calling up the Psychic Network. That does paint a picture for us. Well, my first film, this is a Peter Cushing twofer. Peter Cushing is my favorite actor. I've always loved him and everything. Got to meet him briefly at a Famous Monsters convention. He's just a sweet man who's always one of the best things in any movie that he's in. But this one I love unreservedly, The Mummy. From 1959, it's on HBO Max. This is Hammer Studios, directed by Terence Fisher, their best director. And this is just a scrumptiously gorgeous Technicolor, beautiful movie. Has very little to do with the Universal Mummy with Boris Karloff, which is good because there is, and I counted it, 12 seconds of Mummy in that movie. But this one's got lots of Mummy. This is really a remake of some of the dreadful sequels like The Mummy's Hand and The Mummy's Ghost that came out afterwards. But it's got Peter Cushing as the guy who digs up the mummy and Christopher Effin Lee as the mummy. And The problem with Mummy movies has always been the Mummy is basically a zombie wrapped up in bandages. He's slow. He's really slow. Even for a zombie, he's slow. He's got a gimpy arm, a bad leg. One good kick would make him fall apart. But not Christopher Lee. Christopher Lee is trucking. He is power walking down the street. And when he gets a hold of you, crushes the life right out of you. He's great. We've got the stereotypical, there's a beautiful woman who apparently is the reincarnation of the blah, 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 blah. Just great stuff all the way through. And a wonderful, wonderful scene that is just so great where Peter Cushing now suspects that the suspicious-looking Egyptian guy down the street might have something to do with the mummy showing up. Like, that, okay. He played Sherlock Holmes, and clearly some of it rubbed off that this, sketchy Egyptian guy and mummy show up at the same time. Could they be related? So he goes there, and he goads this guy into sending the mummy after him. And it's just so great, because he portrays this upper-class, xenophobic, we rule the world and screw you kind of, English type person. And you can just see the guy is getting angrier and angrier. It's just so good. Lots and lots of fun. Just one of my favorites. It's not as well regarded as some of Hammer's other movies, but I think it's great. So that's The Mummy on HBO Max. And speaking of things that are well preserved for their age, I'm throwing this over to Renee.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Bill, I just love the feel of silk on bare skin. Don't you?
Hell yeah. I didn't think that was any secret.
But what if you have too much of that pesky body hair? Well, I've got a place for you. It's called Wayne's Waxing Salon.
Oh, no.
Yeah, also doing business is Wayne's Depilation Palace.
Ooh.
Obviously, I'm talking about the most popular hair removal movie in all of cinema, Hot Wax Zombies on Wheels.
Wow, did you just make that up, or is that real?
Oh my God, you haven't seen this movie?
No, I didn't even know it existed.
Oh my God. Honestly, it's so great. You have to watch it.
Let's everyone make a note, people. Someone found a movie that Bill has not seen or heard of.
Wait a minute. Any horror movie from 2000 on is very hit or miss with me. I'm stuck in the classic.
1999, sir.
Oh, there you go.
Wow.
Right on the cusp.
Got him on a technicality.
I didn't know hot wax was a thing back then. Wow.
Oh, yeah. It was just a burgeoning new trend. This movie is ridiculous. It's very self-aware. It's full of a lot of silly gags. There are no wheels, though. Spoiler alert, there are no wheels. But there are a lot of hot wax zombies and a lot of bare breasts.
Oh.
For those of you, yes, that are drawn by that. So, yeah, that is my recommendation. You really should watch it. It is called Hot Wax Wax Zombies on Wheels. And
but it's got a happy ending.
It does. It does have a happy ending. And now to someone who is so dolphin smooth that they don't need a wax.
Dolphin
Pass
smooth.
This over to Zach.
The fact that Renee is describing me as dolphin smooth proves that she has never seen me in real life. I think Bill can attest to this.
Wow.
But,
you're always smiling, just like a dolphin.
Oh, there you go. Normally, I recommend movies that or TV shows that I've been watching recently. So most of the things that I'm recommending are things that I've just watched. However, my second recommendation this week is actually something I think I'm going to watch this upcoming weekend myself. So maybe you can join me. This is actually a movie that I've seen, and this kind of ties in, but I don't remember it that well. But it does kind of tie in. Last week I was mentioning The Last of Us, which is, by the way, still a great show. Episode 3 just came out. It's a real heartbreaker. Truly one of the most amazing episodes I think I've seen in years. But I'm not re-recommending that. I can't say words tonight. That did remind me of something else, though, because I don't think the Last of Us, even the video game, was the first to do a zombies caused by a fungus. I believe, I'm sure there have been other ones that have done this, but it reminded me of a movie from 2009 called Splinter. Which Bill knows what it is. So this is one Bill has seen and is familiar with.
Yeah.
This is a a group of people trapped in a gas station, and there are some zombies outside. But the zombies, when you turn into a zombie, you grow these like little splinters, and if you get a splinter on you, well, obviously, as the name would imply, you get infected with this zombie, which I think it's actually a fungus that is infecting people. So that's the thing that I think I remembered that, and I think that The Last of Us is not the first one to do that. But anyways. Like I said, I can't really say a whole lot about this movie because I haven't watched it in a very, very long time. But I remember kind of enjoying it. And it also does have Shea Whigham in it, who is, I think, a very, very underrated actor. Love him in tons of stuff. Love him in Boardwalk Empire. So yeah, I'm going to be watching this one this weekend. And I guess maybe you can watch it too. And we can compare. That was I'm talking to the listeners out there. You can watch it too, and we can compare notes afterwards. This one is playing on Hulu, Vudu, our favorite, Tubi, Redbox, Pluto TV, and Plex. So you have plenty of places to check it out. Speaking of things that might be covered in fungus, Bill, what's your second? I don't know. I got nothing. I apologize. Bill,
no,
what's
that's
your
fair.
second recommendation?
It's entirely fair. So my second one is another Peter Cushing movie from England, but it's not Hammer. It's not even Tygon or Amicus. It's from Tyburn Films, which was when Freddie Francis, a phenomenally great cinematographer and okay director, broke away and tried to make their own kind of Hammer movies, and they only made a few. It's The Ghoul from 1975. It's on Tubi. But what a cast. Peter Cushing, John Hurt, Veronica Carlson, Ian McCulloch. I mean, this has got some really good cast here. But it's basically just a remake of the Hammer film The Reptile, which is much better. But it doesn't get shown very often. But neither does The Ghoul. The Ghoul kind of disappeared for a while, just could not be found. There's another movie called The Ghoul from Boris Karloff, which was actually believed to be a lost film for the longest time, but they found that too. Ghouls don't get much play. They're creatures that devour the dead, and George Romero, called his zombies ghouls, but that kind of fell apart, and no one ever talks about ghouls anymore. So anyway, there is a bunch of rich upper class twits who do a road race. This is set in the 1920s or something. And they end up at this deserted old manor where Peter Cushing's there, and he's got an Indian servant who is clearly a white English lady with brown makeup on. It was a different time, and all kinds of things. And basically, don't go up in the attic. It was also released as The Thing in the Attic. And spoiler alert, there's a thing up in the attic. It's pretty obvious what's going on. Veronica Carlson, beautiful. Don't get too attached to her character. And then a bunch of other people show up. It's like Psycho. It really is. It's kind of like Psycho. Someone comes, bad things happen, then the relatives of that person show up, and yada yada. There's a ghoul. There's a ghoul there. It's his son. His son. He went to England as a missionary, and his son and wife got hooked up in this cult, and somehow he got turned into a ghoul and kills people with this really cool looking knife, like a straight stabby knife. That's pretty neat. But the ghoul himself actually would be fine. He's just this big guy in a diaper and sores all over his body. He has to eat human flesh, and he just looks like he's got leprosy and all kinds of things. But for reasons I cannot understand, they put this horrible green gel filter on him. You don't really get a good look at him until the end. And then they've got this green gel that looks just ridiculous. It's so bad. And this is Freddie Francis, who again is just a great cinematographer. He did The Elephant Man. He did some of the best looking films. But for some reason, when he's in control, it just looks kind of subpar. But it's got a great Peter Cushing performance. This is after his wife, Helen, died. And you can pretty much tell there's Peter Cushing before his wife died and Peter Cushing after his wife died. He aged like 20 years in just a few months, to the point where they changed scripts to make him the grandfather of a character when he was supposed to be the father, because he just didn't look like he'd be her dad. He looked like he'd be her granddad. It's very sad. He was just waiting to die at that point, and he lasted forever after it happened, like another 20 years or something. But in that 20 years, he did Star Wars and became known to people beyond the horror fan community. But he kept doing these movies where he has a dead wife. And there's always that scene where he's talking about it, and you can see the pain in his eyes and all that he used, the actual grieving that he was going to really imbue these characters with way more than they deserve for a marginal movie like this. So it's on Tubi. There's better way. It's a pretty good way to waste your time. It's never going to be a classic, but come on, you want it. John Hurt's great, Peter Cushing's great, Veronica Carlson's gorgeous, and maybe someone will do a good ghoul movie. I mean, they're awfully creepy, eating dead bodies and all, but I don't know. Well, we'll have to write a script or something. So, speaking of lovely, as Veronica Carlson, who I still, it just drives me nuts. I was 2 months away from interviewing her at a convention, a local convention in town. Yeah. And I was like preparing everything. It's like, 'cause she worked with everyone. She worked with Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing, and she had all kinds of good stories. Everyone says she was just the sweetest lady. And unfortunately, she just, very suddenly passed away right before. I mean, like my sadness is nothing compared to her fans and the folks who really know her well, her family and everything. But really, she's very good in this, so it's worth watching. So let me throw this over to Renee.
Well, thank you very much. My next selection is one that I'm sure that you've heard of. It is a horror anthology film. It is ridiculous, a little gross, but just totally hysterical. Which, incidentally, is exactly how I like my men. Some would say it's the full package or a scare package. See what I did there? Yeah. Anyway, scare package. This movie is...
What?
Huh?
I've never heard of it.
Stop it! Bill, what is happening? Oh my
Scare
gosh.
package?
Scare package. It's a Shudder original.
Oh, well.
Oh, God. So you were probably busy watching Tubi originals, so it's all right. This movie, okay, so it is an anthology. There is a wraparound story, and there's a lot of great callbacks to horror of the past, little callbacks to things. There's a lot of really great, fun, gory effects. And it's just so funny. I just laughed, through the whole thing. I really enjoyed it. And, yeah. That movie is called Scare Package, and you can watch that on Shudder. And I guess that's it. Paul is not with us tonight, and now I'm really disappointed that I did not memorize the theme song to Hot Wax Zombies on Wheels, which, yes, there is a theme song to Hot Wax Zombies on Wheels, which I will post a link if somebody wants to learn it really quickly and then sing it.
Now, can I ask you, is Hot Wax Zombies on Wheels, is this hot wax in the sense of like American hot wax where it's music, or is it like where you're waxing people and pulling hair off their body?
You're waxing people and pulling their hair off.
Okay, because American hot wax has absolutely no bikini waxing going on at all.
Yeah, there's a lot of waxing going on in this movie.
Wow. But there's no wheel.
Oh my God, no. And I guess that they had planned to have some wheels here, Austin, because see, there's a motorcycle. If you can see that trailer, there might have been maybe a motorcycle in maybe the very beginning, but by the end, I completely forgot about it.
So they planned on having like some wheels, but then the folks with the wheels didn't show up on the day they were filming that.
Most likely.
See, that's when I changed the title of the movie. If I got, Revenge of the Zombie Horses, but the horse thing falls through, it's going to come up with some other title, unless I already got the poster printed up. Maybe that was what happened.
The weekend of February 3rd, Bill recommended The Mummy from 1959, available on HBO Max, and The Ghoul, available on Tubi. Zachary recommended Call Me Miss Cleo, available on HBO Max, and Splinter, available on Hulu, Vudu, Tubi, Redbox, Pluto TV, and Plex. I recommended Hot Wax Zombies on Wheels, available on Tubi, and Scare Package, available on Shudder. Paul recommended Shrek 5, Bringing Shreksy Back, available on Paul TV, and Shreknado, available on Paul TV. Welcome back, everybody. We are... son of a bitch. I was going to say we are Q-tips.
We are sons of bitches. Yeah,
Right? We are sons of bitches. Oh, God.